Good afternoon, Miss. My name is Robinson, and my student ID is SUKD 2401239. So, before starting my presentation, I would like to introduce my groupmate, Ian Cheng, our design Grace. And thanks for lending me a year and taking time to be here with me. So let's begin today's presentation. So we choose the Shannon Weaver model because as known as the mother of all models. Shannon Weaver model is a foundational communication model that how information flow from the source to the destination. So I will pass to the next person, Yan Cheng. Thank you, Miss.
Okay, so hi Miss, my name is Kian Chen. I will introduce about the Shannon's-Weaver model. So the Shannon's-Weaver model, also known as the mathematical theory of communications, was developed in 1948 by Claude Shannon, mathematicians and engineers, and later adapted by Warren Weaver, a scientist. Shannon originally created the model to explain how messages are transmitted electronically over a communication channel like a telephone. His work focused primarily on signals transmissions, encodings, and noise, and was highly mathematical. So Weaver saw the potentials for Shannon what to be applied to humans' communications, and he modifies the model to fix broader semantics and social contents. As a result, the model moved beyond just technical communications to include human and interpersonal communication. The model aimed to simplify the communication process and make it easy to identify potential breakdown, particularly in the content of engineering, mass communications, and information theory. So next is the key components. So there are 5 key components. The first is information source. So this is the originator of the message, such as a person who produced the message. Then the second is transmitter. So this converts the message into signals. The third is channels. So channels is the medium through which the encoded message travels from the transmitter to the receiver, such as cable for televisions. And then next is receiver. So this converts the signals back into a message that can be understood. And the last is destination. So the final target message means is the person or entity for whom the message is intended. And then noise is the message transferred from the encoder to the decoder through the channel. So during this process, the message may be disrupted or affected by physical noise like horn sounds, background noise, misinterpretations, or encoded signals or encoded signals that may distray in the channels during the transmission process, which affect the communication flow, or the receiver may not receive the correct message. Then there are two principles. So the first is linear process. So the model views communication as a one-way linear process from sender to receiver. So next one is focus on accuracy. Emphasize how accurately the message is transmitted and receiver. Then the effect of noise. So introduce the concept of noise as a key barrier in communications. This was revolutionary at the time and remained a critical concept. Emphasize how interference can affect communications. And then the next is encoding or decoding importance. Highlighted the need for proper encodings by the sender and effective decoding by the receiver. And the last is quantifiable communications. Looked in mathematics, and the model allowed for measurable aspects of communications like noise level or information rate. So I done the key components. So next one is the strengths and limitations of the Shannon's-Weaver model. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Grace. I'll be talking about the strength and limitation of the Shannon-Weaver communication model. So for the strength, one of the key strengths is that it clearly identifies the stages of communication, like the sender, message, channel, and receiver, which help us to break down how the message are sent and received. This makes it easier for people to pinpoint where communication might fail. Another major strength is how it introduces the concept of noise. Well, the concept of noise refers to anything that interferes with the message. This could be a background sound, a bad signal, or even just a misunderstanding. This includes noises in the model, and it helps us to be very aware of how communicate of help us be more aware of communication barrier. And lastly, it is a very structured and simple model, which is why it's often used in education and technical fields. It gives us a basic understanding and framework to know how the information moves from one person to another person. Well, the limitations, one of the big limitation is that the model is just one way. It doesn't include feedbacks, but in reality, communication is usually two ways. We ask questions, we reply, or give reactions, which this model doesn't reflect. Another limitation is that it ignores emotion and context. It treats communication just like passing on an information. But in reality, how a message is understood can depend on the tone, the culture, or even the relationship between the person. Lastly, the model is often seen as too mechanical, which means that it works well for mechanics and systems, but for human communication, it is more complex, more emotional, and it is more unpredictable, which is this model doesn't fully capture it. That is all for my part. I'll be passing on to my other teammates.
Hello, my name is Aziza, and I will be talking about how the Shannon-Weaver model works in real-life situations, and I'll give you two examples, one from a classroom and one from a hospital, to show how communication can go wrong or right depending on how we use the model. So let's first start with the first example, a classroom in school. So in this case, the teacher is the sender, and the teacher gives a message by speaking, like giving instructions, explaining homework, or teaching lessons. And the students are the receivers who are supposed to listen, understand, and follow the message. But here's the problem. Sometimes there's something called noise that gets in the way, and so this doesn't mean loud sounds. In communication, noise means anything that makes the message harder to understand. For example, maybe some students are chatting in the back, or the classroom is too loud, or the teacher is speaking too fast, or using difficult words that the students don't understand. And when this happens, the message gets lost, and if the students don't ask questions, or if the teacher doesn't check whether the student really understand, there's no feedback, and this means that the communication becomes one way, and that's where misunderstandings happen, and sometimes students might do the wrong task or feel confused. And so this shows how important it is to reduce noise, check for feedback, and make sure that the message is clear and easy to follow. And this is exactly what the Shannon-Weaver model helps us understand, how each part of communication process matters. Now, let's take a look at the second example, a hospital situation. So, in a hospital, the doctor is the sender and the nurse is the receiver. So, the doctor gives instructions For example, about how to treat a patient, which medicine to give, or what care to provide. And the doctor sends the message by talking or writing. But sometimes the doctor might use a lot of technical medical terms which the nurse might not fully understand. And so this type of problem is called semantic noise. It's when words or meanings are confusing even if there's no physical noise. So, if the nurse doesn't ask for clarification or if they misunderstood the instructions, there could be serious mistakes. That's why feedback is important in this situation. So, the nurse should ask questions if anything is unclear, and the doctor should make sure the message is easy to understand, maybe by using simpler terms or confirming that the nurse got the message. So, in both example, the classroom and the hospital, we can see how all the parts of the Shannon-Weaver model comes together. So basically, the sender creates the message. The message is sent through a channel like writing or speaking, and noise can affect the message. And also the receiver receives the message, and most importantly, there needs to be feedback to make sure the message was understood the right way. So these real life situations show that the communication is not just about talking, it's about making sure your message is clear, that there's little noise as possible, and that the other person can respond and ask questions. And that's what helps us avoid mistake and build better understanding. So overall, whether it's in a classroom or hospital or even in our daily lives, the Shannon Weaver model reminds us how important it is to communicate clearly, listen effectively, actively, and always give feedback. And that is all for my part. Thank you so much.
Hi, Miss. See you again. So I'll be in charge in the last part. Effectiveness of improving and resolving conflict. So here we go. There are 3 points for improving communication and 3 points for resolving conflict. So the first and foremost, clarify message flow. This channel-driven model divides the communications into simple steps: sender, message, channel, and receiver to the destination. This helps us understand how a message travels from the source to the destinations. And where we can improve, for example, if a message is not received properly, so we can look back each of the stage to find out the problem and rectify it. So second will be identify communication barriers. Noise is in the model referred to anything that interrupt or disrupt the message, like background sound, external environment, unclear language, unclear word, or emotional stress. By learning to identify and remove this noise, our communication become more effective and less confusing. So third, encourage effective encoding and decoding. Encoding is how we can from our message, and decoding is how others understand it, understand our message, and understand what we would like to deliver about. This model makes us more careful with our word choice. Each of a word, maybe some of the word is a well-intentioned, but even well-intentioned, but also can cause some unintentionally conflict. So we should take care, should more more careful using the word, tone, body language, hand gesture, body posture, which lead to the clear understanding, especially in the professional, sensitive situations. So the 3 points for resolving conflicts. Firstly, will be pinpoint breakdown errors. When conflict happen, we often say it's just a misunderstanding. Sorry. This model helps us pinpoint exactly where that misunderstanding occurred. Maybe the sender was not clear or the receiver misinterpreted the message. So second, beside promotes feedback and clarifications. Clarification, although the original model is linear, it can include feedback in conflict. Feedback is the key. It always moves both parties to clarify, rephrase, conform, and what they means, which prevent the argument from the escalating, prevent a conflict. So third will be last one, reduce emotion reaction by using the model as a neutral tools. We analyze the problem logically, meticulously, and precisely instead of emotional. This helps both sides feel less attacked and more open to solve the issue calmly. So thank you, Miss, and thank you for all my fellow friends. I've done my part. So I hope you have a great day, Miss. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Grace.
And my name is Aziza Ali.
And for our interactive segments, I'll be doing a short role play to demonstrate how noise affects communication in the Shannon-Waver model. Noise refers to anything that disrupts the message. So it could be like a background music or distractions or even emotional distress. So in this role play, I'll be the sender, and therefore I'll be giving the simple instruction while my friend is the receiver. But a music gets in the way and causes a misunderstanding. Let's watch what happens. Hey, can you draw me something real quick? Start by drawing a square, then put a triangle inside, point it upwards, alright?
Yeah, sure, I got it. Triangle.
And make sure to only shade the triangle, not the square, okay?
Wait, what triangle? I thought you said a circle. Oh, okay, never mind then.
Wait, what? What is that? I said square with a triangle inside, not a circle outside.
Oh, okay. My bad. I was listening to music, so I got distracted and I didn't catch it properly.
There it is. That's a perfect example of a noise interfering with the message. Okay, so let's break down what was happening by using the Shannon-Waver communication model. So I was the information source and I encoded my message using a spoken words. The channel was my voice. The receiver was my friend, who was supposed to decode what I said and act on it. But then there was a noise, in this case, music playing in the background. It distracted the receiver and caused them to misinterpret the message. That's why the final drawing was totally different from what I was asking for. This model helps us understand that communication isn't just about sending a message, it's about making sure it's received and understood correctly. If noise interferes at any stages, the message can become distorted. In this case, there was also no proper feedback, so I didn't know something went wrong until the very end.